Hey, welcome to a new episode of Skin in the Game. I'm your host, John Cimperman, with my co-host,
Tim O'Shei.
Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. We're on, I feel like I say this every few weeks, but we're on one of my favorite topics today.
Well, sports management and education.
I do have a passion for both of those things,
Yes,
especially
do.
when you put them together.
Yeah, so no, really excited. We have a really special and interesting guest on the program today, Dr. Lynn Lashbrook, who is the founder of Sports Management Worldwide, which is really I would call it one of the pioneer organizations in online education, career advancement, and the industry of sports business.
And what an interesting guy Dr. Lashbrook is. I mean, you talk about, all right, so offering these classes online for people interested in all these different sports front office jobs. What qualifications do you bring? Well, he's been an athletic director.
Right.
He pivoted over to becoming a sports agent, and that's only a partial list. And he's been at this for decades.
Yeah.
So talk about someone who's bringing in experience and perspective and a ton of energy.
And I think what we want to touch on is the growth of the sports business industry and all the jobs that are out there. But also, I really want to dive into with Dr. Lashbrook, name, image, and likeness, because he's seen the before, he's living the during, and I'd love to see, where he thinks name, image, and likeness can go, and how we can maybe put that train kind of back on the rails a bit.
That thing's got to get on the rails, and this will come up, John, in the conversation for sure. Families of young athletes who are positioned to make money through NIL deals really need a solid place to go for some guidance, education, right?
Absolutely.
So they know how to filter the opportunities for the kid who's at the center of that.
Right. So we're going to get to Dr. Lashbrook here shortly, but first, a little bit of news. And speaking of new jobs and a growing industry, we now have 4 new expansion teams in the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League.
And before we go further and you list them off, I want to say you called it.
Well, I called
it.
I called one.
Well, we were only talking about one.
Okay.
So to me, you're 1 for 1.
In addition to Hamilton, which we did predict on this program
a couple of weeks
back,
ago. Yep.
Detroit, Hockey Town, great.
Mm-hmm.
San Jose and Las Vegas are also going to be joining the league. So 4 new teams, 2 West Coast and 2 Great Lakes.
For obvious reasons, where you and I are sitting, love to see these Great Lakes cities get these teams. And I got to tell you, your hometown of Cleveland, I would love to see a team there.
Yeah. The problem is, Tim, they don't have the right size building, right? And
right.
And they would be competing with NBA for prime nights, American Hockey League for prime nights, and obviously a full list of concerts. So you've got to find the right size building that also doesn't have too many tenants. And again, Hamilton's a great example because recently renovated building, approximately 16,000 seats, and they're looking for content. And the PWHL, great programming for a lot of nights in that building.
Right, and Hamilton, as we've talked about, a number of times on this show, including a couple of weeks ago, incredible hockey market. Just as we've seen with other teams.
Well, they now have 2. So they have the American Hockey League is coming back to Hamilton, which is awesome. And now the PWHL is coming to Hamilton. So it's great for the hockey market, great for the building, great for that regional economy around the building.
Right, and that speaks to a market like Hamilton, which of course is compared to Cleveland.
Right.
For example, is many times smaller and is close to Toronto. The only competition is the AHL, and I highly doubt that's even it might be a little bit of competition for fans' hockey dollars, but there's enough fans who are willing to spend enough dollars in a place like Hamilton to go see both teams, right?
Yeah.
And drawing from similar audiences, although my limited experience being at a PWHL game, you get a lot of families there. You do it at an AHL game too, but PWHL.
I think they'll complement each other well, and it's great to fill up that building. Speaking of, I guess, segue, Tim, not family entertainment, not the ability to afford to bring your kids to a game is what's, we don't talk a lot of NBA on Skin in the Game, but we're in the midst of the NBA Finals, San Antonio Spurs, New York Knicks, and I'm not sure if you've seen the quote-unquote average ticket price for an NBA final game.
I've seen a range out there, and I'll ask you to reveal it, but I am guessing it's not something that lends itself to, say, a family of four coming in from Staten Island.
Yeah, it's a family of four going on vacation is the price for
this.
Oh,
so we're talking a family of four going to Disney
yeah.
or to MSG for a Knicks game.
So I've seen, the low end for a seat at the Garden for the NBA Finals. Low end is $5,000 for a seat.
Oh, that's
one seat.
I said Disney, I meant Paris.
Yeah. Upwards of, 5 figures for a seat. So there's huge demand. It's the first time that the Knicks and the New York market's been in the NBA Finals for going on almost 20 years. And there's this whole FOMO we talk about, fear of missing out, right? So it's not just the celebrities that are sitting courtside that want to be part of history or to witness this. It's also, the average fan who, again, $5,000 to get into the building. It's crazy. So good for the Knicks. Let's hope that fans get their money's worth. They're off to a good start there. But it's just crazy how there just doesn't seem, Tim, to be a ceiling when it comes to pricing.
Talk about bringing a family of four. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. Unless you're a partner in a law firm, then
that's why
you might be in good shape.
We're also big fans on this program of the minor league sports, and the PWHL, minor league hockey. There are great entertainment values out there, so that fans and families can still experience these events together. So there are options. It just may not be Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, you ready for Dr. Lashbrook?
Yeah, let's talk about the trends of sports business, where the industry has been and where the industry is going. Thrilled to introduce Dr. Lynn Lashbrook, who is the founder and president of Sports Management Worldwide. Dr. Lashbrook, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Always glad to be here and talk sports.
Well, you're going to be a great insight for Tim and I, because Dr. Lashbrook really want to get some background on, obviously, the origins of sports management worldwide, but we also want to dig into, some of the most recent trends. But first, if you could, for Tim and I, and more importantly for our listeners, kind of give us a little bit of your path to sports business and then the origins of sports management worldwide.
I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. I'm the largest high school and also a farm boy. We had 2 farms, so I'm a city farm boy. Played catch with my dad at 5 years old was my start in sports. Attending the Kansas City A's game in '55 was my first awareness to professional sports. Later caught 13 foul balls at the A's game. I call that analytics. We'll explain that later. Smallest guy, largest high school. Broke my leg my junior year, but my senior year I ended up being a defensive back, and I at least started, and nobody recruited. I went to Fort Hays State out in western Kansas as a military base at one time, and I walked on and got lucky, and 4 years of scholarship and starter. And that was in 1970. There was no NIL. I had 3 interceptions in one game as a freshman, but no Al sticking that coupon. Then I went to my master's in Springfield College in Massachusetts. The birthplace of basketball, an inspiration for me to go there. I tell my students that I held the ladder for Naismith. That's not quite accurate, but I was inspired by Naismith. In my international class, I studied Russian. I'll get back to that in a minute. I knew that I wanted to, after my master, I wanted to go back to Fort Hays and teach and coach, but they weren't going to hire me. So what could I do? I went and got a doctorate at Northern Colorado in kinesiology. There was no sports management.
Right.
And I subbed every day. I coached football in the afternoon. The next year I was a head freshman coach, still subbing. 3 years after college, I had my doctorate work completed, driving back through Hayes and saying hi to my coach. And the department chairman said, "Hey, what are you doing this semester?" I said, "Well, I'm looking for a job." I said, "Well, you teach physiology, kinesiology, adaptability, elements of health, golf, which I never played, and track, which I never ran." And the reason I got that job, I used to water the cinder track for my work study job back at Fort Hays State. So here I am, a professor and coach, and I stayed there 8 years tenured. Nobody leaves tenure. I'm 30 years old. I had a chance to go to the University of Missouri, Norm Stewart back then, and academics and compliance. Again, no NIL.
Right.
And in 5 years, we led the Big Eight in graduation rates when there was a Big Eight. And I was president of the National Association of Academic Advisors. I got really connected. And then I decided I wanted to be an athletic director. I call it pivoting. I went to Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. That was in 85. That was the year that the 3-point line was adopted. And it's interesting there is my professor at Springfield College was Ed Stites, and he's the one that was head of the rules committee, ramrodded through the 3-point line for the NCAA. And when I was at Springfield, there was a guy named Dr. J that played at UMass. So now I'm at Southern Illinois, and then I went to University of Alaska Fairbanks after 3 years at Southern Illinois, and that's when the wall went down in Germany. And I started an exchange program in Russia where I'd studied physical culture in Russian, and it's a short flight over, and the wall was down, and we started an exchange and recruited a Russian athlete and a volleyball player. We became very successful. Our hockey team got in the CCHA with Michigan State.
Yeah.
We built a rec center, and we had the Russian exchange. And I went across in St. Louis, Jim Steiner, Jerry Rice's agent.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be an agent. He said, no, you don't. And so I begged for business cards. And in 3 years, I had 20 players in the NFL from first rounder to free agents. If you get Ralph Dawkins out of Louisville, an undrafted free agent, you might get the younger brother Brian out of Clemson, an NFL Hall of Famer. I had 2 players of Buffalo Bills, Tony Klein and Lonnie Johnson, and AJ O'Fallon. We actually had 3. But I've had a lot of success. I lost Ryan Leaf to Lee Steinberg. And I thought sure I'd get Ryan Leaf out of Washington State. Mike Price was with me at Missouri. Jack Johnson was with me at Northern Colorado. But it didn't work out. And there was this thing called the internet started up, dial up Yahoo, and there's a movie, Jerry Maguire.
Yes.
And I put the 3 together, and I started a company, How to Be a Sports Agent, an 8-week course. Mel Kiper did our radio ads, the phones lit up, but I didn't know what I was doing. My wife helped me out, and then my accountant said, you need to add more courses. And so we added courses, and 30 years later, we have 30,000 graduates from 164 different countries, 40-some courses, all taught by industry leaders. We do conferences all over. We go to the NFL Combine. It'll be our 30th this year. Adam Schefter comes by. We'll be up in Buffalo where the draft, not the physical draft, the virtual draft. And then we go back to NBA Summer League. We do the baseball conference wherever it's going to be this year after hopefully not a work stoppage. So that's the story. The company, my wife's a partner in it. We've been around for 30 years. We're all over the world. We're doing multiple languages, cricket, rugby, analytics, scouting, marketing, sports broadcasting. We complement a university. We have a partnership with Concordia University, Chicago for master's and doctorate. But that's the short version. And I think the world, sports is a weapon of mass destruction. It's a substitute for war. I don't think we can have a civil world without sports. And it's exciting times. So I really appreciate being here today. I'll shut up now. You can ask me any question you want.
Well, I'm going to turn it.
Keep going.
I'm going to turn it over to my fellow educator, Tim O'Shei, here, because I know he's really interested in kind of diving into the coursework and the degrees that you deliver to 30,000 alumni right now.
John, you suspect I have a question
I
or
do,
two about
I do,
this. Well,
I
the
do.
first one is, how do I sign up? And I will come to that. Like, how do people sign up? But let's talk, Dr. Lashbrook, about the typical student of sports management worldwide, if there is one. And if there's not a typical, describe the range of people who sign up.
I'm going to say this, it's 71 to 17. And let me tell you, there's a lot of people that bring value. I tried to create a Rolodex. Once you're with our company, it's a lifetime membership, resume service, informational interviews. We send a Starbucks gift card every time somebody interviews one of our students, and they call us up and thank us, and then we invite them to speak at our conference. But we have a Rolodex of about 200,000 around the world. Colleges don't spend the time we do on trying to find a job. We call it micro-credentialing. But to be honest with you, I think if somebody had the chance to know Jim Steiner, they could be a sports agent. Somebody, not just because your dad owns a team or you played the game or your brother played, why can't we democratize the opportunity to work in sports all over the world? We have students in Venezuela now with what's going on over there. It's pretty exciting. But I think access to opportunity. Sports was really a who you knew. Now we're trying to make it a who you know and a what you know. And then I don't think instructors, I got my doctorate in kinesiology. I'm not an expert in hockey analytics nor hockey, even though I was an athletic director in hockey. So I would say that we think that the industry leaders, the Dan Evans, former GM of the Dodgers, Hank Jones, the MLB 50-year agent, Dan Duquette with the Boston, et cetera. We just have leaders. And so universities struggled with our concept. We kind of broke away. But I think we're winning right now. We get a lot of students that come to us, and I want to place people. I want people to get paid for their passion. And I jokingly say you have to have a ticket to the game to catch a foul ball. That's what I had, a ticket to the game when I caught those foul balls. We don't guarantee a job, but we try to give you an opportunity, and we have fun doing it. And it's pretty exciting. I'm very proud and very humbled at the same time.
Really sounds, and Tim, I'm just what Dr. Lashbrook's mentioning. It just seems like sports management worldwide is knocking down barriers. And, I really love the fact we're really increasing the diversity and the opportunity to work in sports, because you're right. When I started in sports, I worked for the owner's son in two of the organizations I worked for. And the owner's son, his fiance was the head of marketing. So, and I'm not going to name the organization, but I know Dr. Lashbrook understands that's the way professional sports ran. It was who
family business. I mean,
family
a big
businesses.
family business.
It's such a big industry. Like one of our most popular courses is an NIL course to represent athletes. And I metaphorically say an Uber driver has a car, they fill out an app, and when they go to the airport and they pick up a passenger, they actually make money. And every time I get off the plane, I go to the app, and the closest one to the airport gets my business. And I go back to the Ralph rule. If you get one, you'll get another one. So a lot of people come as a scout and they pivot to representing, whether it's NIL or agent. So it's revolutionary what's going on, the zillion-dollar business that it's become. But the global, we say go global or go home. You can't ignore. Look what the NHL and what the Olympics did this year, and look what the World Baseball Classic did. Now soccer in our backyard. I watched the late Lamar Hunt bring soccer to America, and I actually sat in the stands with Lamar when Clark was playing soccer at SMU, and he's the owner now of the Chiefs. And I told him that story when Matt Moore, one of my clients, was the backup for Mahomes when they went to the Super Bowl. And I met Phil Knight, and I admire what he did with the shoe. So I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by Howard Schultz and the One Coffee Shop and what he's done. And I always, even though I never met James Naismith, I jokingly say, he got a ladder and put up a peach basket. And here at Sportsman Worldwide, I got a career ladder. I put up a website, and I think we got something I'm just proud. I'm proud. I love helping people, and they're getting a return on the investment. So I'm lucky you even want to chat with us, because I think we're undiscovered to this day. I still think we're new to the world.
Let's talk about the pathway people take to come to sports management worldwide. And then where it can go from there. So let me throw Dr. Lashbrook two hypotheticals at you. And both of these I think are very realistic ones. So let's say one is 22-year-old recent college grad, has a 4-year degree, maybe got a degree in communications. You could do a lot with that, but not any one specific thing. You can, you got to take that degree and shape a path with it. That 22-year-old is looking back and saying, I really would have loved to work in sports. I wish I would have done some internships. I wish I knew somebody. I wish I had done something different because I'd like to get into sports. So that's hypothetical number one of two. What could that 22-year-old come to sports management worldwide and look to do?
So it's a very relevant question. And my goal is to get them their senior year in high school. They take a course, whether it's digital video editing in football or analytics. And whatever school they go to, whether it's Fort Hays State or Missouri or anywhere, I want you working in the athletic department for 4 years. So that's one of the saddest things I watch is a degree and a master's degree when right in your backyard you have a laboratory. I use the example. Back at Missouri, I had 2 graduate assistants in our program. One was a strength coach who's now the executive vice president of the Green Bay Packers, and he does salary cap. There's no such thing as salary cap in 1980. The other was a young man who later became an NFL head coach, Mike Zimmer, and both were in that ecosystem. And Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys former coach and now the Pittsburgh, Mike is a Fort Hays grad with his master's where I went to school, but getting in that ecosystem. So that's one of the first things. If I get him when it's too late for that, it's never too late because you got to get connected. You may have to work in the ticket office, but you can be the GM someday. It's amazing now with analytics, including women's sports, There's so many ways. You got to bring value, though. You can't just say, I love sports, I just want to work. That's what we try to do. What else can you bring to the table? And we teach them that.
Yeah.
And they get interactive, and it's pretty exciting. So that's my favorite, is get them before they go to college so they don't lose that laboratory experience. That's one of the tragedies, I think, of sports management majors that don't work in athletics.
I would agree. And John, I'm going to let you get to your second scenario, but I am critical of some of the sports business programs, both undergrad and graduate, because there's not someone teaching the course that's actually sold a ticket or sold a sponsorship or negotiated a contract. And what sports management worldwide, and Dr. Lashbrook, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're focused on having practice professionals versus the textbook.
None of them have a doctorate in kinesiology, but me. They all have great experience. They love teaching, by the way, and it's fascinating. But that's really how we separate ourselves from higher ed. But we can get college credit, like with Fort Hays, my alma mater. And then some, because I was an athletic director, that doctorate opened 1,000 doors. In college athletics, there's so many opportunities.
Yeah.
There's more colleges than there are pros, but now there's salary cap in college if it's coming up. There's NIL. There's so many general manager. So it's crazy what's going on in the business side of sports. It's pretty exciting. All sports, including the women's sports. And look at the Professional Women's Hockey League, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And we'll present that at our conference too.
The PWHL is my favorite league out there. I think John and I have talked about
We've
this.
We've been covering
the
PW since its origination, and we've had a few of their executives and players on our program, and it's a great textbook.
Well, I want you to be my guest because Chris Burkett, the vice president, will be there, and I really want you to stop by. So you are going to be my guest at the conference in Buffalo.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
So Tim, your second prospective student.
So hypothetical student number 2 is actually Dr. Lashbrook, going to be perhaps even more opposite at the other end of the spectrum from that 17-year-old high school senior who would be the ideal. Let's take somebody. We can pick an age. 35, 45, somebody who's late, early to mid career. They've got a lot of time to go, but a lot of experience behind them and a lot of distance between where they are now and the last time they were in school. So let's say you've got a successful business person, a successful executive who wants to do what you did and pivot. But they want to pivot into sports. They want to become an assistant athletic director. They want to go into scouting. They have an analytical mind and want to go into analytics. Can you help them?
That's a great question. Again, we get a lot of people have full-time jobs and family. So we talk about asynchronous, starting another career. That's why I go back to the NIL agent. The agent analytics can be done from the home per se. There's global identification of talent around the world. You're absolutely right. I'm 77. I won't retire because I'm having too much fun working in sports all day, if I may. But yes, there's so many jobs out there. So somebody will come to me, they want to be a scout. But scouting is a lot of travel away from the family. But if you're going to be a scout, why don't you represent those 2 high school athletes who are trying to decide where they're going to go? Are they going to go to upstate New York or Syracuse? Do they transfer? Those are personal one-on-one. There's so many future agent advisors, we call them, they could do it tomorrow with an 8-week course. We give them the tools, they get the confidence. There's so many talented people out there that don't know how to monetize their passion for the game. Then there's people that they need veterans in the marketing department. They need veterans, analytics people that never did sports but know sports.
Right.
They just never been introduced. So you'd be shocked at the democratization of talent out there around the world. And that's why we have so many women. It used to be if you didn't play baseball, you couldn't be in baseball. With analytics, you can prove yourself. We are a bridge and a friend for college athletics or college sports management, but it's still difficult. I look back at, when I did splicing of a 16 millimeter film, watering the cinder track. I didn't do the Zamboni back in Kansas. We didn't have hockey, but I look back at what I did, concessions, etc. There's so many opportunities for so many talented people to work in sports. And with the World Cup coming, even in security, there's so many opportunities. I've never seen anything like the growth of sports and how much it's going. And then the college athletics with NIL, whether we like it or not, it's changed the landscape. But every high school junior and senior and family, we're getting parents taking the NIL course. They should. You know who knows the kid better than the parent? Nobody knows the kid better than the parent. So why wouldn't you represent your own kid? I get numerous calls every day from people. They're worried they're not qualified. You know your kid. And I remember when Nick Saban or somebody said on the TV, these agents they're the roommates. And I'm laughing. Yeah, the roommate knows the player better than the agent with 100 clients. So it's a revolutionary opportunity. And I know it sounds a little self-serving, but it's just so exciting to be able to tell this story and be transparent about it.
Yeah, well, Dr. Lashbrook, that's part of the origination of this program. Skin in the Game was the industry. It's one of the few industries that continues to grow. Also, that integration between sports and entertainment. Sports is entertainment. I'm a marketer. So for me, it's all about putting butts in seats, right? And driving new revenue streams. And if you can do that for a music festival, if you could do that for a traveling comedy troupe, those skills are applicable. Absolutely. If you're passionate in sports.
What I noticed in traveling around the world, and my kids, actually my son and daughter-in-law live in Abu Dhabi of all places, and I have 2 grandkids over there. We're probably going to put an office over there, but what they're doing in Saudi Arabia, they're investing in sports, and whether it's to live or anything else, the globalization of sports. And you look at the basketball and Wemby, if I may, for a moment, from France, and the last 10 MVPs have been international. And going back to Naismith and the peach basket, but every sport, look at the NFL, we're going to go to Australia for a meet and greet. The globalization of talent discovery and the globalization of sport discovery. There's kids in India that have never seen an American football. And then don't forget flag football. That's going to be a revolutionary opportunity to grow the game. And so the globalization that I'm watching in Netflix is just something the NFL is really doing as well as anybody. But look at cricket. Major League Cricket came here last year. They did very well. And the Olympics is adopting the women's softball, the Olympics adopting baseball, the Olympics is flag football. And you see where we're going. And watch the World Cup. It'll bite us this time, because last time it was okay. This time is going to be something people can't get their arms around. I'm so excited about the platform and the momentum of what soccer is going to lay for the rest of the sports, including professional women's softball.
Talk to us a little bit about the pros, but also the cons of learning online. I mean, in the end, sports is still about, obviously, for the most part at least, getting out there, feet on the ground, meeting the people you're working with, being at the events. But totally understand, I mean, being able to democratize, to use your word, access to this kind of education and these kind of contacts, rather, is absolutely outstanding. So how do you navigate the upsides and the downsides?
Right. I've been a professor 6 years. When I saw the first ever website, I fell in love with scalability. And then the other light bulb went off, having a global classroom like every Sunday. And it started out with 1 student, dial-up Yahoo, then 2. Today, I have no less than 30 around the world of alums and active students. You have somebody from Cameroon, somebody from Venezuela, somebody over in Italy, along with somebody from Kansas. We're talking sports. And so to me, the more diverse your classroom is, the better experience. And you can't get that in the physical limitation. Everybody has to come to Buffalo once a week for a class. The secret for our online is we do live interactive audio chats. And I jokingly said, and I've never been offended, at least never offended a hockey person, you can drink beer in my class. As a professor, I can't make you, but I can't stop you. Class should be fun, exciting. Sports is exciting. So we make our classes fun. Many people take 3 or 4 courses, believe it or not. And I don't want to get salesy in here, but I really do believe anybody can work in sports. I can't guarantee the job, but if you start the Rolodex process, meet people, we upgrade your resume, something good happens. And if you decide you can't get a job, then represent 1 kid who has a younger brother, and that's 2. Then they have a sister. There's Caitlin Clark. That's 3. Now you're wearing flip-flops and you're not working anymore, and you're having more fun you ever had in your life. To turn on the TV as an agent and watching your client come off the bench who hadn't played in 3 years, Matt Moore, when Mahomes went down, I had to go from the pizza place to my house. My buddies went with me, and Matt Moore throws a touchdown. They beat Denver. They end up going to the Super Bowl that year, and he's my friend to this day. It's a thrill to watch these stories happen. At the same time, the women's sports. And I can't imagine, they even talk about leadership skills. Women that play sports have much higher leadership success stories than not playing sports. And I've raised two stepdaughters, but without sports, we can't really make it a better world. And with the internet, even with esports, believe it or not, esports is they recruit, universities have it, and the ADs love it because there's no travel. But there's esport eyeballs out there, and those eyeballs lead to balls and to jerseys, and it's crazy. So the esports, along with skills. So I can't go anywhere but online. I've done the classroom, and I cheer them up in there, but nothing replaces an international online course where you get quality people all over the world passionate about the sport and what goes on in it. So that's why I defend the scalability of online.
We're with Dr. Lynn Lashbrook, the president and the founder of Sports Management Worldwide. We've touched on it very briefly in our 20 minutes or so here, and I do want to spend some time on what I think, and maybe you'll agree, is the biggest change in sport, and that is name, image, and likeness. It seems to be a bit of a revolution. Let's talk about NIL and what that means for today's athlete.
It is a revolution. And being a former president of the National Association of Academic Advisors, and I think back on it, to learn capitalism and responsibility as a freshman is not all bad. I don't like the 5-time transfer. I think we're coming up with rules and guardrails. That part I don't like. I just think it's not healthy to transfer every year. But I do think they deserve to get paid, and I do think it's an educational experience. It's one of our most popular courses because if you want to get in sports, all you need is one. It could be volleyball, it could be golf, it could be a Division III athlete who has NIL, needs advice, family needs a little outside advice to go with their kid, and all of a sudden you're part of the game, just like an Uber driver has a car. I swear, I don't know how else to metaphorically compare the two, but it is revolutionary, and it's global, even though they say passive NIL for the international. Not true, because they're gonna raise the lid on that. So everybody, look at Illinois last year with 3 players from overseas, if I may.
Yeah.
But the international recruiting, and South Carolina signed a player out of Australia, and the number 1 draft pick for the Cleveland Guardians is playing very well. Bazana,
Very
he's
well.
not only Oregon State, he's from Australia.
Yeah.
So baby athletes are born all over the world, and with NIL, that's the only way you can represent somebody. If you don't have an NIL relationship, you can't be in the green room. And so that's the revolution. You're absolutely right. You're very knowledgeable of this.
On that note, and John, I'm thinking back to a conversation we had probably more than a year ago talking about NIL here on Skin in the
Wild,
Game.
Wild West?
Yeah, I was going to ask you exactly that, Dr. Lashbrook. Is NIL still a wild, wild west, especially for young athletes, people who are still minors, who need that parental guidance or some kind of guidance to figure out what to go, what's real, what's legit?
I call it the Wild Wild West as well. And to be honest with you, we need to focus on the family and the one person. So do I tell somebody you can't transfer to Tennessee because we already got a client there? You're going to need to go to Vanderbilt. Let's use that as an example. It's a one-on-one. Its family needs to be involved. And the agent, the more successful we are as an agent, the more clients we have, the more diluted the one-on-one. So that's where I think we come in, democratizing representation. NIL is not rocket science. There's do's and don'ts. There's procedures. There's better mousetraps out there, but it's case by case. And you're absolutely right. And that's why we encourage all the people that want to be an agent. You need to take NIL because you got to get them in from high school to where they're going to go to school and be part of that. Even if you don't make any money, and you can make money, but you have to have that relationship. Your relationships drive it's 90% of the business. So, but the NIL, if I'm in Cameroon and I'm going to go to Penn State, I want somebody from Cameroon that knows the family. But I wouldn't mind having somebody at Penn State that knows Penn State's athletic department. So we think a lot of our agent advisors, Uber drivers don't share. I mean, it's one place or the other, but they take care of that ride. But representation, it almost is going to take 2 cars, if I may.
Yeah.
And so that's the exciting thing. So I call it as revolutionary as you do. It's changed our company. And then we have a lot of students that'll take our NIL, then they get their master's or doctorate. They get hired in the athletic department. If you're going to be in the athletic department, they'd love for you to teach sports management because there's not much difference between athletics and sports management. And it's been a separation for years, but it's a broken model. So you appreciate what I'm saying. I know you do.
Absolutely, absolutely, and now more than ever. I mean, the universities, whether they're outsourcing it, whether they're building their own revenue generating departments, are part of that athletic department, and they really need to be hand in glove. I agree with you, by the way. Transferring 5 times over 5 years it's free agency without a salary.
I was going to say,
cap.
it sounds like NBA free
Right.
agency.
No, you guys are on target. Let me add one thing on the NIL.
Yeah.
The universities are at an enrollment cliff next year with high school graduates. Universities are in trouble.
Yeah.
Every day. And they need sports, whether it's esports, and they need eyeballs. And there's countries that pay for tuition to go to school, and the cross pollination of sports for university survival. It's hit the right buttons at the same time. And when you have a kid, do you want them to go to minor league baseball from Venezuela or go to Florida for 4 years, get an education and get NIL, then go to the majors? So think of that revolution of globalization of recruiting.
Right. We're with Dr. Lynn Lashbrook, the president and the founder of Sports Management Worldwide. Is there some concern, though, that you have with kind of competitive balance? I guess, how does some of these mid-schools compete, if at all?
Well, we're victims right here in Northwest with Oregon State and Washington State being left behind in the Pac-12. I'll use that as an example.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough talent around the world to equalize. And to be honest with you, I get we need guardrails. And just like they're talking about expansion for football, they're expanding the basketball. It's a big business. And the NFL with their salary cap, they get it. Baseball's going through a real collision because for 100 years they've not had a salary cap. You and I know salary cap is a healthy way. It saved hockey, saved basketball, and it saved football. But baseball has not enjoyed that balance. Baseball has to be careful not to have a stoppage. Because there's a lot of competition for the dollar, and it's really an interesting time. But back to the guardrail, the competition in a product is the product, not the victory. The competition. That's why this baseball playoff so exciting. That's why the Frozen Four hockey. End of the day, Denver won again. And my point is that you need competition, but basketball's figuring out their tanking issue, but football's fun because you don't know who's going to win. Baseball gets a little lopsided right now, but baseball's a weird game. The Yankees can get 23 runs, but they could lose tonight. Right. So I don't know. I don't have the complete answer. I think guardrails are important. In the Olympics, we set birth certificate control, even though that gets twisted a little bit. But that World Cup is an example of what global competition is, and it sets the bar for everybody else.
Dr. Lashbrook, I want to ask you to go back with us to getting inside the minds of people who think they want to or know that they want to work in sports. And there's certain jobs that, even in our conversation here, have come up repeatedly. One is scout. Another is general manager or assistant GM, coaching. There's certain jobs people know exist. What are some jobs that in the sports industry that you wish people would ask more about, or you wish people would know more about so that they could ask and maybe pursue?
So I think they don't know what they don't know. Just like I will say on any question that comes to me, Socrates said, I know for sure I know nothing. But back to your question, the growth of opportunities. We spend a lot of time when somebody comes to our website of the options that they don't know about. And I always go back to pivot. If you look at me, I was a professor, coach. Why would I leave tenure? I left and I became a successful AD, academics and compliance. Why would I leave? I became curious. I became an AD at a commuter school. And then I always wanted to have a big school. I grew up around Missouri and KU. And I go to Alaska, which is a school named after the state. And then I did the Russian exchange. And why would I leave? I look for opportunities. But pivot is the biggest counseling that we do. It's a simple word, pivot. You can pivot. You don't know how to pivot. You don't know what pivot to. And both of those are logical. So when we spend time before they ever invest, and many come in and say, I want to be an agent, and they end up being the salary cap. I mean, it's crazy what goes on. Once you're in that ecosystem, I call it eco opportunity. Once you take one course from this, you're in the ecosystem forever. And there's students, we have graduate stars that work for the NFL over in Europe. We get a lot of cross-pollination of students that started out here that become that. One of our faculty members for years with Minnesota. Now he's with a team called the Golden Knights. Just talked to him yesterday, trying to get tickets. My point is that once you're in the ecosystem, you're in.
Right.
And then we continue our informational interview concept, 10 minutes. And let me tell you what 10 minutes is. If I'm going to interview you, my student is instructed. I looked on LinkedIn. Lynn, I saw what you do. Here's my question to you. What's your challenges today? Oh, thanks for asking. And you love sharing. And then the next question is, where are you heading career-wise? Oh, thanks for asking. You love talking about your future. Somebody cares about you. Third question is, hey, thank you so much. Do you have any advice? And you'll say, yeah, I do analytics or whatever. You would. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, do you have anybody else I should interview? Yeah, you should do my buddy over in New York. He'll be glad to. Here's his email. And that's how it works. And then we send the Starbucks gift card, handwritten note. Nobody, colleges wouldn't send $10 to anybody.
Yeah.
30 years later, I am so proud. And I'll leave you with this. I won't leave you this, but I'll tell you this. You know how many bones are in the body when I was in kinesiology? 206. You know how many countries are listed in the Olympics? 206. I call it an out-of-body experience. I'm convinced that what we're doing at SMW, no different than Nike, no different than Starbucks, no different than the Peach Basket. I'm convinced that we can change the world through giving ethical people an opportunity to become leaders and monetize their passion in sport. Totally convinced that. As crazy as it sounds, that's what I do all day.
Yeah, well, Tim and I agree because, sport is one of the few things that can bring people together, to root, to cheer, to follow a passion. And in today's world, more things that bring us together is a good thing.
And sports broadcasting, it's one of my favorite courses. Any venue, including softball, junior high, that doesn't have a play-by-play announcer. I'm the dad. I'm in Florida on business.
Yeah.
I will pay to watch my daughter play Zoom. And so all of a sudden, every venue should have play-by-play. Sitting there trying to get at ESPN, start your own company. And that's what we try to teach.
Yeah.
Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Create a uniqueness about you. And all of a sudden, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You guys got it. You worked hard to get where you are.
We do want to wrap things up here, but I do want to just ask you if there is, an aspiring sports professional or someone who's aspiring to be in the business of sport, what is your advice to them?
SMWW. If you can't spell it, I can't help you. SMWW. Go to the website. Either talk to Dr. Lashbrook. Application's free of charge. We're not going to hustle you. You sit and look in a mirror. Are you getting paid for your passion? If you're not, you got to start somewhere. Come, at least we'll talk to you. I give you free advice all day. Not everybody I talk to takes a course. I just enjoy talking. So they get me at 77. There's no professor in the world that works Sunday mornings. And I do this day and night because I love helping people. And I want to make I want to make the world better. I think we have to do. The world is begging for sports leadership and ethical sports leadership. You can't create ethics, but you can attract ethical people. And when we talk ethics, I call it guthics. It takes guts to enforce ethics. Don't talk ethics with me. It takes guts to enforce ethics. And that's what we teach and do every day.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you, and on behalf of our listeners, thank you, and keep up the great work, and keep bringing people together, keep knocking down walls and reducing those barriers to sport. And I'm an example, and Tim, we both, our careers have been around the business of sport.
Absolutely,
and
we built our way into it.
You follow your passion,
and still getting ideas. I'm holding in my hand here a sheet full of notes based on this conversation.
So make sure we cross promote this. We want to send this out to our 200,000. So whatever we can do to promote you guys, and I really want to see you in Buffalo and come to our. We have a reception the night before, and you'll get to meet all our faculty and our staff, and you'll feel the transparency, the energies, the sincerity. We appreciate this opportunity. You guys are both great. I can't wait to meet you in Buffalo.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Lashbrook. Appreciate it. And we will see you in beautiful Western New York in a few weeks. And until then, keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Hey, welcome back to Skin in the Game. And again, thank you to Dr. Lynn Lashbrook for joining us. Great interview. in my mind, I'm just, I'm thinking, I'm talking to, the originator of the Jerry Maguire movie. I mean,
for people who out there who remember it, which I'm going to guess is a lot of you, not everybody. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of business that people would gravitate toward after watching a movie like Jerry Maguire, which, John, I'm thinking, I don't know that this is necessary, but we probably should tell people remind people about the Jerry Maguire movie.
Well, Jerry Maguire, played by
Tom Cruise.
Just has this epiphany about kind of the lack of integrity and the lack of ethics in being a sports agent. So he walks out one day, and luckily for him, one person follows him.
Yep.
But the entire premise was, the lack of ethics, the lack of integrity, just the focus on the dollar, and he just got fed up with the business. Any of our listeners, go back and find the Jerry Maguire.
And it made being an agent seem like the coolest job. It almost became like this rock star behind the scenes job. And then there were celebrity agents. Lee Steinberg,
right,
is one who comes to mind. Drew Rosenhaus is another who comes to mind. So that whole career got really glamorized, and you could see where Dr. Lynn Lashbrook saw this opportunity.
He lived it.
He lived it, and
right.
Maybe we should teach people about this,
right,
and a lot more.
Right. What was so interesting about the conversation is how their business, Sports Management Worldwide, has evolved and how it's expanded, because professional sports, amateur sports, the lines are blurred between those two, right? And the business of sport, which is why we're here at Skin in the Game, is to talk about the business of sport, continues to grow, is global, right? The internet has absolutely knocked down the barriers. You may be in Japan and follow the Cleveland Guardians, or you may be in Australia and follow the Seattle, what will be the Supersonics again, because you have access. And it just sounds like the program they're building 100% online is all about real world experience, mentorship, and in this case, networking, building your network.
And I love that they are teaching people about NIL, name, image, likeness, not just for the usually young athletes out there who are accessing it, but for their parents, people who are around them who are advising them. Because, and you and I have heard the stories, and we read the stories all the time, and they're scary sometimes. They're heartbreaking. A good young athlete, or a young athlete with a following, will have so many people and companies coming after them, trying to get a piece of them.
Right.
And you do need that trusted adult in place who knows how to navigate it. And we've had conversations here on Skin in the Game. It's hard to know how to navigate it.
It absolutely is.
Right. And it's hard to know who to trust if you're going to hire somebody to do it for you. So being able to go just get some education on this is gold.
Where we didn't go with Dr. Lashbrook, but we will get him back on, is really one of the big positives of name, image, and likeness is the ability for these athletes to really even have post-career careers, right? Because they can build their brand beyond the hardwood, beyond the pitch, and having that knowledge of the best way to present your brand and monetize your brand is important. Again, not everyone can be the star of the team, but if you have that personality and you have that knowledge base, you can still build a career even when your playing days are over.
Right. And you see so many athletes doing that now, right? And what it used to be is, for an athlete, whether they had a personality, whether they were a glowing personality, I should say, whether they were popular with the media, with fans or not, they typically would either stock a bunch of money away and invest and try to set themselves up for life that way, or they would get some training through the league. The NFL has, over the years, for example, has done a great job providing guys in that league training, for the next job.
Right.
But now you have this opportunity to be entrepreneurial and build your own business around it. But then it comes back to, how do you monetize it?
Right.
How do you actually build something sustainable And do you
Right.
want to do it? Will it be fulfilling?
Yeah.
Too?
Well, this is a nice bookend. And if you recall, a month or so back, we had Lars Bengston on from a company called Hardscope. And he was specifically talking about how athletes are working with his agency to monetize their brands, right? So I'd encourage our listeners, if they want to, if they have an aspiring athlete or an aspiring candidate for a name, image, and likeness, also go back to that episode of Skin in the Game, because it really goes into more the kind of the nitty gritty on what athletes are doing to build content. And it sounds like also with what Dr. Lashbrook is doing with their coursework, it's providing a little bit more of that framework.
Right. I do think about this, though, for people who've been athletes, whether at the big league level, with a ton of success and, presumably money, or at the collegiate level with, a lot of success, but not necessarily beyond NIL, any money. Once you are done playing your sport, your life completely changes, right? There is no more team. There is no more locker room. There is no more competition, that camaraderie you felt, that drive, that motivation, that schedule that dictates your day, right? All of that is gone, and it's gone really fast. So you do need to replace that, with something that'll generate revenue. That's what you and I are talking about. But you also need to replace it with something that's going to be fulfilling and sustainable.
Still check that passion box.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's the missing piece that this conversation with Dr. Lashbrook had me really thinking about is, yeah, you can go monetize your brand and you can become a content creator. And yeah, some people can do that full time and find that fulfilling. But for a lot of people, that's only a piece of it. What are you going to do with your days? What are you going to dig into? What's your actual career beyond content creator going to be? Because that's not going to work for everybody, much like being a pro athlete's not going to work for everybody. So I think it's great that Dr. Lashbrook is providing training that, could even help a player take her or his or their abilities as an athlete into coaching, into scouting, into working in the front office.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, following your passion. And by the way, it doesn't have to be in sports, right? But the leadership you learn from playing sports and the traits that you acquire, teamwork and camaraderie and leadership, those are transferable to any industry.
Yeah. I mean, you've been an employer your entire life. I mean, when you hear somebody is a former athlete, like a high level or at least a dedicated athlete, how appealing is that to you?
It's really what you've done. So I've worked with some professional athletes that made more than enough money, and that lack of motivation. They don't need to work anymore. But on the flip side, I've worked with former professional athletes, and I'll use Luke Robitaille, the president of the LA Kings, as an example. He's built an unbelievable second career in the sport of hockey. He was a Hall of Famer, is a Hall of Fame NHL player, but now he's found this next chapter where he's using those skills. So I think
to lead an organization.
I guess the point is, I'm not starstruck if someone played professional sports. It's really, what have you done and what do you want to do?
If somebody was even just a dedicated high school or college athlete, not a pro, not somebody who's famous, but as somebody who looks to hire people for the businesses you've operated, the fact someone's been a dedicated athlete, do you find appeal?
I do, just because they're juggling multiple projects. How are they balancing their personal life, their professional life? Absolutely, and it doesn't matter, what sport it is. I just think those characteristics and the fact that you maintained a grade point average, whatever that may be, but also competed in whether it's high school or college sports, is definitely a positive.
Okay.
So I want to thank Dr. Lynn Lashbrook.
We could keep going for a while.
We could keep going, and I think we'll get him back. And but I also want to thank all of our listeners. And until next time, thanks for listening.
Skin in the Game is a production of Buffalo Toronto Public Media. You can catch up with all our episodes on btpm.org or on the Buffalo Toronto Public Media YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.